way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
Wide receivers and the NFC South. That is the theme of this episode of the Fumblerooski podcast in our summer series. I'm Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros. No Justin. Tuck is out tonight because he has work. What a loser.
He's so responsible, though. Can't hate it.
Nah, out here making money, being responsible. Screw that. All right. Well, as I mentioned, so we are on episode 199, which means next week is episode 200, where we will have a bunch of people on our show. And we have quarterback rankings and NFC West preview. That'll be on that episode. And that'll wrap up our July episodes. Following that, we got our August episodes, episode 201. It's going to be team rankings and preseason coverage because that'll be week one of preseason. So the 2023 season is right around the corner. NFL honor predictions and preseason coverage after that. Then fantasy football sleepers, tight end and quarterback the next week. And then more preseason coverage. Then fantasy football sleepers for running backs and wide receivers. So all the skill positions. So guys, we are quite literally taking you right up to the start of the NFL season. And as we are technically in mid-July, it's a lot closer than you think. So we're getting there. However, we have a great episode planned for you guys today. We're going over the top 5 wide receivers first. Then we're going to preview the NFC South, and we're going to go over your fan box responses for the most underrated wide receivers going into this season. But without further ado, CJ, why don't you kick us off with your list? So we're going to do it a little bit differently this time. Instead of us going around the table, we go, I give my number 5, CJ gives his 5, then 4, 4, 3, 3. We're just going to each go and give our entire list and a brief explanation between each behind each ranking. So, CJ, how about you kick us off?
So, my number 5 is going to be A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, I think he definitely cemented himself as top 5 last season. The only reason he's not higher is because he's got a bit of a handcuff in Devontae Smith, who is also a 1,000-yard receiver in his own right. So, but either way, I really like A.J. Brown on this Philly team, and he should improve his chemistry with Jalen Hurts. My number 4 is going to be Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins. He's just insane. He's literally a walking one-play touchdown, probably the fastest player in the NFL. And once again, the reason he's not higher is the same thing for A.J. Brown, where he has an even bigger handcuff in Jalen Waddle. So my number 3 is going to be Devontae Adams of the Vegas Raiders, who some could say would have a case for number 1, but Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be throwing him the ball. But you'd think that would hurt him. However, you also have to keep in mind Darren Waller's gone. So like he's going to be getting probably a lot more targets. My number 2, and I know he's coming off an injury, don't bite my head off, but Cooper Kupp, he's ready. Oh, no. Adam probably doesn't even have him top 5.
I don't even have him close. I think that
is horrific.
I think he's in the back end of the top 10 at this point. Man, all right, keep going.
No, okay, wow. No. But I'm just saying, even before he got hurt, he still had 75 catches and like 812 yards, and that wasn't even like half of the season. I mean, I'm just saying. Not to mention, like other guys, like that one bust they had there. Not a draft bust, but like a signing bust. Yeah, Allen Robinson, he's gone as well. So I'm just saying, there's got to be more targets. And number 1. It's got to be Justin Jefferson, right? I mean, literally reigning offensive player of the year, probably the most explosive player in the NFL. Need I say more?
I like your list. In fact, A.J. Brown was a good one. I had him just outside the top 5, but I think now that you've kind of talked me into it, I think I'm going to put him in mine as well, just to give a little preview. But Cooper Kupp number 2, man. I just it's just I think he's an awesome wide receiver, and he had an unbelievable year. But I just think that 1 year in 2021 may have been a fluke. He's always been a very good wide receiver, but he's never been that he's never been that guy who could be the number 1 overall wide receiver for that long. I mean, he it seems like that was an outlier, but I could be wrong.
I mean, I'm just saying he's got. I mean, yeah, look, he's not like a touchdown machine like he was, but even still, he's always at or close to 1,000 yards. And keep in mind, he only played 9 games and still amassed 812 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the argument. I just think I'm just not as high in him this year. That's all.
Don't worry, you will be forgiven.
You make a strong argument. I'll say that much because he did have 800 yards while playing 10 games this past season.
9.
There you go. So have over 800 yards while playing just a little over half a season. That's still pretty good. I just don't know if what he did in 2021 is sustainable. But I could be wrong.
That's the only way to find out.
But I told you that I put off camera that I put Devontae Adams on this list. I actually just took him off. And I'll tell you why. Because I just don't think he's in a situation that is sustainable enough for him to continue to put up numbers, especially since Darren Waller is now out of the picture. So that's an elite target that's gone. Yeah, Darren Waller's not there anymore.
Yes, I know.
He's a giant. So therefore, not in my top 5. He's just outside it. My number 5 is Stephon Diggs. And I have Stephon Diggs because he has he's about as safe an option as you can get when it comes to putting in your top 5 receivers, as long as he stays healthy. He has a high-flying gunslinger quarterback. Say what you want about him later on in the year, but during the meat of the regular season, he's always slinging it and always getting it to Stephon Diggs. I have Stephon Diggs, and he's going to have yet another very good year. A.J. Brown is my number 4. And again, you talked me into putting him in there. I mean, it's about as steady a situation as it can get. And clearly, when he was on the Titans in a run-first offense, he still is in one, but they pass it a little bit more, and they're more efficient. And when they do, it's almost always to A.J. Brown. And I get that he has Devontae Parker.
Devontae Smith?
Devontae Smith. I misspoke. There's so many Devontaes out there. I get that he has Devontae Parker, but I think that almost helps him in a sense. Because if it's only him in that pass-catching core, then defenses are going to game plan for him. They can't game plan for him. If you do, then Devontae Smith is going to kill you. Dallas Goedert is going to destroy you. They have a running game that is very good consistently that will destroy you. So they have no choice but to spread the wealth on defense, and they're spread thin at that point. So I think A.J. Brown is a lock to be top 5. My number 3 is Tyreek Hill. And the reason I have Tyreek Hill, this guy is about as explosive as it gets in the NFL. And even when he's not in the middle of the action, you see him when another player, one of his teammates, is sprinting down the sideline. He's sprinting to catch up with him just to high-five him while they're running in the end zone. And he has shown no signs of slowing down. If he gets hurt, then he gets hurt. And, I mean, we can say that about anyone on this list. But Tyreek Hill is about as explosive as it gets. And if Tua stays healthy, then he's going to continue to favor Hill in this offense, with Jalen Waddle still drawing some coverage and making it so that you can't double team him, which is a good situation for him. Now, that offensive line for the Dolphins, another thing to be said, but they don't need that much time to throw with all these targets. My number 2 is Justin Jefferson. This is about as much of a slam dunk top 2 pick as it gets. And I know what you're thinking. Why didn't you have him number 1? Who did I have number 1 last year? And then he had an incredible year. Justin Jefferson. Jefferson was awesome last year.
So who's your number one?
I'll get there. I got to give some love to Justin Jefferson though. And
Apparently
the only
not
reason he'll get there. We'll get there. The only reason I have Justin Jefferson number 2 is because I think the other guy has a much better situation around him. But Jefferson, in his own right, he has it as good as it gets as well. Because they lost Adam Thielen, but they drafted a young kid in Jordan Addison who looks very promising and could put up some numbers in his own rights. You also have TJ Hawkinson, right? You still have Alexander Madison, despite the fact you cut Dalvin Cook. Madison, fresher legs, a little younger. You still have Kirk Cousins, who loves Justin Jefferson. So things are going to get a lot better. In fact, much better than last year as far as the situation goes, because that defense is not as good as it was last year. So they're going to naturally be playing from behind, a lot more shootouts. So they're going to have to pass the ball more. Justin Jefferson will be a benefactor as that. My number 1, drum roll, please. Drum roll.
No, all right, fine.
There we go. Jamar Chase.
Oh,
Jamar Chase is my number 1 wide receiver. I thought he was going to have an incredible year in his sophomore season, and he technically did, based on what he did in the time he was healthy. He had over 1,000 yards while missing 6 games last year. That is incredible in its own right. Now, Burrow has a lot more time to throw, and therefore, he's going to find Jamar Chase. If you have time to throw, Jamar Chase, there's no corner in the league who's going to be able to cover him for 4 seconds. So there you go. Jamar Chase. And again, another guy they cannot double team. They can't even get close to double teaming him. You have T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and they have the guy they just got as the tight end. I'm completely blanking on his name right now. To replace the other guy they had.
I know who you're talking about. See, now I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either. You guys definitely know. But they got a tight end from the Vikings who was actually pretty good.
Oh, Irv Smith.
Irv Smith. There you go. Irv Smith Jr. That guy. Now, he's not a world beater as of a tight end, but he's going to be good enough so that defenses have to respect him. And you have the deepest offensive line the Bengals have had in recent memory. Because of that, I know I said this last year, and it didn't work out because it took them a lot of new faces. It took them some time to gel. And once they finally did, Chase and Burrow were the benefactors. Now they've had a year together, and they added some pieces as well. So Burrow's going to have time to throw. He's going to get it to Chase, and Chase is going to have an electric season. Mark my words. You thought he was good last year. You thought he was good the year before that. This year, Chase will put the league on notice in a way that we have never seen him do it before. I have Jamar Chase as my number 1 wide receiver going into the 2023 NFL season.
I don't hate it. He was like my number 6.
Well, I had Justin Jefferson going into last year. So
I hear you, but it's just with all those other targets, they're definitely going to be. I don't know. There's like too many mouths to feed, is what I was thinking. But fair enough.
Yeah, but they had mouths to feed last year, and another detail that I failed to mention is that Burrow and Chase are like best friends. They went to school together. They were great in college too, and that's clearly translated. So I just think
fair.
that Chase is going to be in the top of the totem pole when Burrow is looking for who to throw to. When he throws, he is thinking, "Where is Jamar Chase?" He's not thinking, "Where's T. Higgins?" And he's definitely not thinking, "Where's Tyler Boyd?" He's thinking, "Where is Jamar Chase?" If Chase is covered, yes, we go to T. Higgins. Yes, we go to Boyd. But I mean, let's not kid ourselves here. Jamar Chase is one of the best, if not the best talent as far as wide receivers go in all of football.
Yeah,
So,
fair.
and I think Burrow knows that. And he loves them too. They're best friends.
Yes, I heard.
So,
But yeah, I mean, either way, I don't hate it.
All right. Well, I think that was a good ranking.
Yeah, I
think
definitely do too.
I think I like doing it this way rather than going back and forth because we actually give
Yeah.
out our top fives and we actually reflect on the list itself as a whole rather than give it like saying, oh, why do you have him here, him here, him here? And it takes up time.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I kind of like this too. Honestly, I wish Tucker was here because I know he'd like this list and he'd try to tell us that Odell Beckham's top 5, but cross that bridge when we come to it,
I'd like to believe that one of our football co-hosts does not believe that, but who knows? Tuck is very much a Homer Baltimore Ravens fan. But I think he would talk up Rashad Bateman a lot. And probably the other kid who they drafted whose name is escaping me.
Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers. Yeah. He would talk him up as well. But I don't think he would take him in his top 5.
He'd probably put him in the top 10.
Maybe. I don't know. I'd like to believe not, but all right. Next, we have our NFC South preview. It's an interesting division. Tom Brady retired, leaving it wide open. We're going to tell you exactly how that division is going to shake up next. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. Adam Wright, CJ Medeiros, Justin Tucker has work and skipped out because he's a moron. I'm kidding. I love you, Tuck. NFC South preview. So how this division is going to shake out. How are things going to go? This is about as open as it gets, not in a good way. Because we talked about the AFC East. We talked about the AFC North, both saying, how is this division, anyone could make the playoffs here. We don't know who's going to win the division. And we said that in a good way. In the NFC South, doesn't look great. It's you take any one of these teams who ends up winning the division next year and you put them in anywhere else, they may not even sniff the playoffs. And I don't think I'm exaggerating with that.
No, you're really not.
Right off the bat, though, I think we can rule out Tampa Bay as a possible division champion.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I mean, if they had like a slightly better quarterback, I'd say they're a threat, but I think Baker Mayfield's just about done. And if you've ever watched the show before, then you know where I stand on Kyle Trask. But it's kind of sad because the roster itself is actually pretty solid, except for the quarterback. And Baker Mayfield is going to be a drag unless he can do what he did in his second year.
Right. And like I said, maybe this division is so bad and the quarterbacks don't have to be that good that things actually work out and they win this division. But I think this is the least likely team to win, to come out of the NFC South. But the other team I want to look at is the Atlanta Falcons, because you look at it you think at first this team also has no shot, but not so fast. Their defense actually looks amazing this year. They really went out and spent through their teeth in free agency on the defense, and they reinvested in that offensive line too. And they drafted, say what you want about drafting running backs in in the top half of the first round, Bijan Robinson's still going to be a stud. He is. He's going to be awesome this year. And all you fantasy owners, if you draft him, you will not be disappointed. But this isn't fantasy. We're talking through real life. Drake London was he had a solid first year. He was good. Not as good as Chris Olave, not as good as Garrett Wilson in this previous draft class, but he was still pretty good in his own rights. And he could have a very good second year. Kyle Pitts looks like a very good tight end. He had a down year by a lot. But let's not forget his historic rookie season where he had the most yards in decades for a single season rookie tight end. So the biggest question mark here, what it really comes down to is the quarterback here. That's really where like, I don't know, but they could still, like I said, this division is so bad. They could actually come out.
Yeah. I mean, I see it, but for me, it's Desmond Ridder. He's going to be the X factor. I mean, he was all right when he played. We only saw like a few brief glimpses of him, but I don't know how he's going to be in like an entire season. He doesn't really scare me. But he does have weapons. Don't get me wrong. He certainly has weapons. He has Pitts, he has London. And not even just Bijan Robinson, but everybody forgets about their other running back, Tyler Algier, who, believe it or not, was 1,000-yard rusher. So yeah, I'm just saying. The Falcons do have some good pieces. I mean, I think their pass rush could be a little better, but overall, I don't hate them. It's just, once again, this is another team where kind of like the Buccaneers, where you have a really solid roster, but if your quarterback struggles, they're going to sink like a brick.
Yeah. I mean, quarterback is it's a quarterback-driven league. It's the most important position in football, and you can see it in the money too, because teams are paying their quarterbacks now in ungodly amounts of money.
Yep. Oh, and by the way,
what's up?
I just want to point out that their wide receiver room outside of Drake London is actually very bad. Because I'm looking at it now. It's Drake London, Scotty Miller, Mac Hollins, Frank Darby, and Kadero Hodge. That's awful.
It doesn't look good, no. Scotty Miller, though, maybe with more reps, because he was buried on the depth chart for years in Tampa. I don't know. Maybe he becomes a solid wide receiver 3 caliber guy, but they're looking for a 2 after Drake London, which is why I was kind of expecting Atlanta at first to draft Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's what I thought they would do. Then now we're cooking. But I just didn't think they needed Bijan Robinson. Say what you want. That kid will be a stud, but they didn't need him either. Yeah, so going over to Carolina, that's another team that's set up pretty well, kind of like Atlanta, except the quarterback position looks a lot better here because they just drafted Bryce Young, number 1 overall. So that looks good. They gave up DJ Moore, but they put in some pieces in the offense for him to throw to. They have a good offensive line that they've been working on for years, and that defense it looks ferocious. And it has for a couple of years now. It's been looking good. Just they're named the Carolina Panthers, and they win 6-7 games every year, so everyone forgets about it. But they have, especially their secondary, it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, just for those who don't know, this is a defense that has Brian Burns, Derek Brown, Frankie Louvu, Shaq Thompson, J.C. Horn, Dante Jackson, and Jeremy Chin. And there's probably more people I'm forgetting, but that is a scary unit. And come to think of it, their offensive line's good, but Bryce Young actually is a solid cast of characters around him. They finally have an RB1 in Miles Sanders. They just got Hayden Hurst, I believe, as their tight end. And on top of that, their receivers, there are no headliners, but they're a decent group to start out with. With guys like Adam Thielen, Terrace Marshall, and Laviska Shenault.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I feel
It's
like there's
not
another
bad.
one that I'm forgetting too, but
I would say their cast of skill position players on the offensive side of the ball is probably going to be what holds them back, and the youth of Bryce Young if he can play. But that's about it. Like their defense is good, their offensive line is good. Their Bryce Young is a good young quarterback. No pun intended.
absolutely.
Actually, pun intended. Screw that.
Oh my, yeah.
So it's okay. And again, this is a division where if you just have a little bit of talent, if you just show a little bit of promise, you could probably come out of it. Which brings me to our last team in this division, which I would say is the favorite to win.
It should be.
It's the New Orleans Saints. Now, they've worked on that offensive line a little bit. It doesn't look as good as it once did with Drew Brees over there. But it looks good. It looks good. And you brought in Derek Carr. That kind of matters a little bit. You have Alvin Kamara for now. I mean, who knows what they're going to do with these with the domestic violence punishment here, as he did plead guilty, I believe. Correct?
I believe so. But they also but remember they signed Jamal Williams too. Didn't he lead the NFL in touchdowns last season?
That is correct. Yes. So they have him. So knowing the NFL, there's a very solid chance they don't suspend Kamara all season.
Yeah.
Like, I would say 8 games tops. And I am not condoning this in any way, shape, or form. I hate that is going to happen. He should probably be out of the league. But this is the NFL we're talking about. We're talking about what will happen, not what should happen. And he's going to come back. And unfortunately, he is going to be a very good running back, like he always has been in his entire career. He's just stupid is all. Yeah. Who does that during the Pro Bowl too? Like during a time that should be a happy time for you. Don't ruin it by
He had a little too much fun, if you ask me.
by beating someone senseless. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But talking about the rest of that roster, their offense as a whole, especially in their pass catching corps, has so much potential.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have Chris Olave. The sky's the limit for that kid. I mean, he had an incredible year, and he was one of the runner-ups for offensive rookie of the year. And he was that good.
Yeah. I mean, they also have Michael Thomas, but who knows if he even can stay healthy anymore.
Right.
They have Juwan Johnson, who's actually pretty underrated as tight ends go. And like I said, after Alvin Kamara, you have Jamal Williams. And the wide receiver room outside of Olave and Thomas isn't that bad. You also have James Washington, Traquan Smith, and the rookie out of I think Wake Forest, A.T. Perry. And their offensive line isn't terrible. You're going to have Trevor Penning going into his second year, a veteran Andres Pete, center Eric McCoy, and on the right side, Cesar Ruiz and Ryan Ramczyk. That's not a world-beating offensive line, but it's a solid one.
Yeah. So they definitely have a lot of potential there. And Chris Olave, I think he's a slam dunk to be a very good receiver this year.
Yep.
I'm just thinking of all the question marks past it, including Michael Thomas. And and I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say if Michael Thomas pans out this year and becomes his former self again, this Saints team's winning the division. You have Olave
absolutely.
and prime Michael Thomas, like vintage Michael Thomas. That's a division win there. And you better win at least 10 games.
Yeah.
If you don't, it's a problem. Also, this defense looks still pretty good.
Yeah.
Defense is fine.
I mean, it's all right. I mean, outside of Cameron Jordan, Demario Davis, and Marshawn Lattimore, there's not too much to get excited about. There's a lot of guys that fly under the radar, like Peyton Turner, Brian Breesy, Pete Werner, Zach Bond. Oh, yeah, I also forgot. Their safety duo of Terea Matthew and Marcus May is just out of this world. I definitely think there are some like bench players they're going to have to step up, but overall, their defense is solid.
Yeah, like it's fine. It won't be the reason they don't win a division, which is why the Saints they should win this division, especially when you invested significant money in Derek Carr. So I think, yeah, this team should be favored to win the division. Will they? Who knows? Because Derek Carr has been a very up and down quarterback this year. And they really haven't been quite the same team since Drew Brees retired. So we'll see. Any one of these teams could realistically win this division. But I think the Saints are definitely favored. I think Carolina has some pieces, but they're a little young, and they need some more in that pass-catching core. Atlanta needs a quarterback. In this upcoming draft or the next, they better get a quarterback. They need it. That's one of their last needs on that team. Tampa looks like they are facing a little bit of a hangover, per se, after Tom Brady is gone, because they went all in, which is fine. They won a Super Bowl out of it, and they could have won another if their tackle didn't get hurt the next year. But yeah, I think that's kind of the way it shakes out. But we got to move on. Our fan box is next. Most underrated wide receivers. That's next. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. It's caught! Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins! Sammy Watkins for the touchdown!
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast. Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros. Tuck is out tonight. We welcome you to the fan box portion of our show, where we post a question filter on our Instagram every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more. We will discuss it and give you a shout out on our podcast. Respond to next week's fan box question to be featured on our show. Now, we're going to we never got to a couple of responses last week. We'll just touch on those real quick. It was most underrated running backs, because we had to do our show right before the fan box expired. A few people responded after we recorded. Zachary Stilson said Javonte Williams. He may have torn his ACL last year, but I think he'll bounce back just fine.
He should, yeah.
He will in 2024. Because that's kind of the way it goes with running backs. They tear their ACL. They're back, but they're not really back the next year. And then the year after that, they look like their former selves. It's happened every year it's happened literally all the time, unless your name is Adrian Peterson. Then you win freaking MVP.
I'm not going to say it. Never mind.
Don't, please. I don't know what you were going to say, but Floodster.
Well, Adrian Peterson, use your imagination.
Floodster Sports Zone said Tank Bigsby. It's just that ETN is in front of him.
Yeah.
And he's a rookie too, so we don't know how he's going to be. And plus, Travis Etienne, man, that kid's a stud. Next is Chase McGinty, who said Rashad Penny about to be the best backup. Now, let me tell you something about that backfield. It's going to be a battle of who can stay healthy between DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny. Because when they're both healthy, they are about as talented as any running back in the game.
Yeah.
Just health has always been the issue with them.
Especially for Penny.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
but when
Penny
he's healthy, when he's healthy, it's almost insane what he can do.
Yep. And same with DeAndre Swift. And what if maybe they both stay healthy, and because that neither of them are being overworked, they complement each other in that way, right? And they share the backfield. They each get, let's say, 800 to 1,000 yards. You may not get that elite high level season that'll wow fantasy football owners, but you're still going to be pretty good. Right? I mean, from a real life perspective, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Now let's get to this week's question of the week, which was, who are the most underrated wide receivers heading into 2023? We kick off with Aaron Wise, who said DJ Moore. And DJ
Yeah.
Moore his career has always been held back by subpar quarterback play. Now we have Justin Fields, and we're going to see how he does. The jury's still out on him. He's shown plenty of flashes that he could be an elite quarterback in this league. He's been running for the most part, but he also hasn't had much to throw to. And he's been just okay throwing the ball. He's been fine. But in his first 2 years, he doesn't have much to throw to. I'll give him the free pass. Now he has DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet and Chase Claypool and a vastly improved offensive line. So let's see how he does here.
Yeah, if he doesn't improve, though, that's going to be like a huge red flag. But either way, DJ Moore should do fine.
Absolutely. JZ8 Hockey said Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra St. Brown, that is. He said Amon-Ra. No complaints here. And now that Jamison Williams is suspended for 6 games, that gives him a head start to this season with Jared Goff to build a rapport. And then Jamison Williams is going to come back, and then he's going to be fighting just to get that connection back with Jared Goff. So I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be really good. Yeah, I like that pick.
Yep, me too.
Ian Mulhern said Terrence Marshall. He had a couple of 600-yard seasons, but this year he wasn't that good. And I guess with DJ Moore out of the picture now, he's going to have more opportunities, but you still have Adam Thielen. You still have DJ Chark.
Oh, yeah, he's the other one I forgot. Yeah, and Laviska Shenault, I would argue, is in front of him as well.
Right. So, yeah, maybe. I mean, he's had some decent seasons. So we'll see. We'll see. New quarterback, good offensive line. We'll see. Cola DJ said Christian Watson. And he could be solid. He could be really good. He's going into his sophomore season, and he was a touchdown machine. And he still racked up some yardage, and clearly he's fast. He hit one of the highest speeds of any position player in the 2022 season, I believe. So he has the tools, and now he has a young quarterback in Jordan Love who's going to have more patience for this young kid. So we'll see, maybe. Jack Breel said John Mechie. This is an interesting one. I think he's going to pop off with Stroud. I'm rooting for the kid. He got leukemia right as he was getting drafted. So we'll see how he does. I mean, he had lots of potential, and he was drafted by the Texans, and the Texans in their own rights have a very good situation around him. The biggest issue with them really has been their pass catching core. That's what they're really lacking. And now, they have some pieces, but it's open. It's wide open for Mechie to take on a wide receiver 1 role this year at least. So we have a responder named Owen Vanzlak, who loves to respond to our fan boxes. Not just respond, but give out 7 responses. 7 of our 27 responses. Here we go.
Yep, and we love the involvement. Like, hey, if you're a passionate fan of ours, we appreciate it.
We appreciate it, man. He's a Dolphins fan. So the fact that a lot of these aren't even Dolphins picks, good job. I like the unbiasedness.
We love it when people aren't homers.
So Van Slack said Laviska Shenault. Another good one. We'll see. It's a very open pass-catching core there and in Carolina. Van Slack also said has to be Lazard. Maybe.
He's all right. But he's still wide receiver 3.
He's still their wide receiver 3 on the team. They have Corey Davis. They have Garrett Wilson. They have Mecole Hardman. So Lazard, I mean, the only thing that he really has going for him is the familiarity of the quarterback there, Aaron Rodgers, who he should throw to a lot. So, yeah, he could be all right. He also said KJ Osborne looking nasty right now. So while Jefferson has been racking up these 1,000-yard plus seasons, in that same stretch of time, you got KJ Osborne in the exact same offense who's still getting just under 700 yards a season.
Yeah, that's true, but you have to remember Jordan Addison is there as well, and he's going to, I think, dig into Osborne's numbers more so than Jefferson's.
Right. But they also had Thielen in that offense.
Yeah, and
So
he'll take
maybe
over the
that,
Thielen role, I would think,
and probably do it a little better than Thielen did. Because
because
Thielen was
he's
more of a
not over 30.
touchdown guy. Yep, that too. He also said Chase Claypool comeback season. I don't see it. He
Not
might be
unless
better
Claypool
than
can put down his phone, because
he
it's
mu-
blatantly obvious what he cares about, and it ain't football.
he might be better than what we're giving him credit for, because let's face it, his value right now is at an all-time low. So he's a talented wide receiver. He's a talented kid. Let's see if he screws his head on straight. Either way, you have DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney ahead of you in this wide receiver room. As far as pass catchers go, I would still have Cole Kmet over you. So we'll see. I'm not counting on it though. This is his last response for a while because he has more. He said Hollywood Brown because at this point that team got nothing to lose, so more targets for him.
That's true, actually.
No
Because
more Hopkins either.
yeah, I was gonna say no more Hopkins officially. Andy Isabella was cut, so I don't know. It's Hollywood Brown and Christian Kirk signed away last year. So who, who's Kyler? Whoever will start at the beginning of the year, who are they going to throw to?
I mean, Kyler may not even be ready for the season.
No,
Let's
I
not
said that. I
forget
said
that.
or whoever's going to start the season.
Right, exactly. So I guess you could call him underrated because people are going to write him off because
Yep.
defenses are going to game plan for him. He doesn't have much of a quarterback to throw to. So, yeah, I think he'll have a solid season. I've always liked Marquise Brown. I thought he was always a good wide receiver. He was a fish out of water in Baltimore, where they mainly focused on running the ball. And then he was all right when he was the main guy in Arizona. Grayson Mortimer said Gabe Davis. And
he had a bit of a down year last year, but he's still a touchdown machine.
Even in a down year, though, he still had over 800 yards, and he's getting touchdowns left and right.
Yep.
And he seems to show up whenever it counts. So he's a solid number 2 wide receiver to Stephon Diggs in that Bills offense. He's been pretty good. Tyson Tate said he said the KJ Osborne. Seems like Vikings fans really like KJ Osborne. And
Can't say I blame him.
He's a pretty solid wide receiver 3. You have Justin Jefferson, you got Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne. That's pretty good. And we'll see how Jordan Addison winds up panning out. I mean, he was one of the better wide receiver prospects in this draft. So he could really work out there. Justin Jefferson is going to have an elite year like he always does. So I like that. Luke Hickey said Darnell Mooney, who's always been a good wide receiver. He's another guy who's fallen victim to suspect quarterback play. And here's the best situation you got. I mean, DJ Moore is technically the number 1 guy, but Mooney has been in this offense longer. So we'll see. All right. Jad Noman said Brandon Ayuk, a guy who should be used a lot more than he has in San Francisco. And I don't know what it is about him always being buried in the depth chart and only being used as a focal point of that offense when everyone else is hurt. But whenever he is, he's explosive.
He's a wide receiver 1 on like a lot of teams, and the Niners to this day just do not use him correctly.
Yeah, and I get it. Deebo Samuel has been great too. But so is Brandon Ayuk. So what gives here? I mean, Samuel was a wide he was a 2nd round pick. You got this guy you took, he was a 1st round pick. So I mean, you invested pretty big assets in him. Why not use them? John Warren said Mingo, as in Jonathan Mingo. Now he's a rookie, so we don't know how he'll pan out.
Also,
he was taken in the 2nd round.
5?
Was he? He was drafted by the Browns, correct?
No, he was drafted by the Panthers.
All right, might be. So it's an open wide. It's fairly open over there, But I mean, he's so far back in the depth chart. I don't know how good that he can be.
Also,
If he has the talent, it'll take a couple of years, but
I don't know how I feel about calling rookies underrated since, you know,
they haven't proven themselves yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, but yeah, you're right.
All right. Our next one was John Warren, who said Jahan Dotson. There's a good one. I like that one.
Yep.
And
he and Scary Terry are going to go off next year, especially with Jacoby Brissett, who's a somewhat competent quarterback.
Yeah, but so was Taylor Heineke, though.
Fair.
He was all right. I like Jahan Dotson, though. He was a guy who could score touchdowns and get the yards. He was pretty good in his rookie year. Now he's had a year under his belt. He has the experience. Let's see what kind of jump that he can take. I think he can be very, very good for them, along with Terry McLaurin. This is so. Pardon my pronunciation. It's Reed Neuschwander. It's Neuschwander. Let me know if I got that wrong.
I think it's Neuschwander, but I'm not
Neuschwander,
sure.
something like that. He said Tyler Lockett, which is about as good a pick as it gets with underrated wide receivers. How many straight seasons has he had
four
over?
Straight. I know 1,000 yards, right? Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah, 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and all the attention goes to DK Metcalf.
Yeah, DK Metcalf, which is just asinine. In the 1 year that he didn't get over 1,000 yards, before that was 965. So if you round up, you could say five straight seasons of 1,000 yards. If you round up 965, I would say yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's 35 yards off from 1,000. So, I mean, all the attention goes to Metcalf, and who's been a very good receiver in his own right. But, I mean, when we talk about underrated, I mean, that's a good pick.
Oh, yeah.
Chase McGinty said, Smitty about to have a breakout year. I would say 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns. He's talking about Devontae Smith. I like the passion in your team. I like the faith that you have in your number 2 wide receiver. But it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Not going to happen. I'm sorry. You have A.J. Brown, who gets the most of those targets. He's not going to eclipse A.J. Brown. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, the only way he does is if Brown gets hurt, and Brown has proven himself to be healthy.
Yeah, and they're also a run-first offense, so there's not much to go around anyways. It was a miracle that he had just under 1,200 yards. So I don't see it there. And there's also quite a few mouths to feed there. You have A.J. Brown, not just him, but you also have Dallas Goedert. If we really want to stretch it, we could talk about Quez Watkins. I mean, it's just to say 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns. The 1,300 yards is unrealistic, but 15 touchdowns. I mean, that's like Devontae Adams like every single year with Aaron Rodgers, by the way. Like, I just don't see it. But I appreciate your response. Thank you for the response. I respectfully disagree. Connor Fallon said Darnell Mooney or Brandon Cooks. Both very underrated. I like both of these picks. Especially Cooks, who just continues to get written off every single year. But the more that he has all of these changes to go through to overcome, the more he excels. I mean, he just continues to rack up yardage every single year. Eli Turner said Jerry Jeudy needs some love. I think the same goes for Cortland Sutton. We have not seen the best of either of these guys, at least statistically, because of the situation that they've been in their entire careers. Now, okay, you have a better offensive-minded head coach in Sean Payton, train going by in CJ's background.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's the noise. I forgive you.
No, that's...
So it should be better. It should be better. Their offensive line is better. So we'll see. Then they have a Pro Bowl level quarterback, by the way, who did not play at a Pro Bowl level at all. Landon Weber said DK Metcalf. He's a good wide receiver, just not underrated.
Yeah.
He's just not. He's regarded as one of the high-end top 10 running back. Why? Oh, Jesus. Striking out left and right here.
Wide receiver.
Top 10 wide receivers, like 6, 7, 8. He's not at that level. He might be, he's like a fringe top 10 wide receiver out there. And maybe we haven't seen the best of him yet, but I wouldn't say he's underrated. And don't get me wrong, he's a good wide receiver. I wouldn't call him underrated. That's all.
No, he might be a little overrated, if anything, but,
Maybe. Will Hinckley said Garrett Wilson. And I like Garrett Wilson to have a very good season. And I think he is a guy who could be a top 10 wide receiver when this season is said and done. With an unstable quarterback situation last year, he still had over 1,000 yards as a rookie. Now he's going into his second year, another year under his belt, and you have Aaron Rodgers throwing to you now. That's a recipe for a very, very good season. That's a textbook wide receiver 1 right there. Jack Grob said DPJ, as in Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah, he's okay.
He's going
to be like wide receiver 3 now, because not just with Amari Cooper, but now they have Elijah Moore.
Yeah, I just think they have a lot. They have a lot going on over there. So it's going to be tough, but you have Deshaun Watson, who's a pretty good quarterback. People seem to forget, rightfully so, because of the garbage that he's dealt with and has worked through.
That he's dealt with. You mean people dealt with him?
Like he dealt with himself. I mean, it's self-inflicted, but you know what I mean. I mean, it's self-inflicted, but still, people forget he's still a pretty good quarterback. Piece of garbage human being, but pretty good at football. And Donovan Peoples-Jones will be a benefactor. Nick Norman said Tyler Boyd, steady slot presence.
Yep. Everybody loves Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but man, Tyler Boyd, what a dog.
Absolutely.
Arguably one of the best slot receivers in the league.
I don't even know if I'd say arguably. I mean,
he might. I mean, arguably the best slot receiver in the league. He is certainly one of the best.
Absolutely. So we're back to Van Slack. Owen Van Slack said Deontay Johnson. That's another good pick. I like that one.
Yeah, he's going to be a great weapon for Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett, who continues to show that maybe he's a lot better than we thought he was.
Small hands and all.
That 2022 quarterback draft had a very, very bad reputation. But Pickett is looking like a bright spot there. He could actually pan out and become something.
Yeah, he and Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy, too. I keep forgetting about that guy in that draft. I mean, he wasn't even mentioned in the draft class, rightfully so, because he was the pick known as Mr. Irrelevant.
Oh, yeah.
So Van Slack also said Calvin Ridley. I guess he's underrated because he hasn't played football in, like, you could almost say 2 years since he barely played his last actual season. You bet. I like that. That's fun. But, I mean, now you add him to this offense with Trevor Lawrence, and as your number 2, it's going to be Christian Kirk, who had an incredible year. And he was borderline a wide receiver 1. Then you also have Zay Jones. And you have Evan Ingram, who they just nailed down for a couple more years a few days ago. A very good offensive line. I mean, the sky is the limit for Calvin Ridley, who's primed for arguably his best season yet. Josh Hool said George Pickens breakout season coming. And yeah, I would say so. I mean, he had a good season this past year with a struggling quarterback situation. I mean, Kenny Pickett was still figuring things out. Mitch Trubisky is Mitch Trubisky. So that is an issue. But George Pickens could be a pretty solid. He had a pretty good season. He had over 800 yards last year with the issues that they had. Now they've kind of figured things out. They have a little bit more of a stable situation going. Going into year 2, I think George Pickens has a very good year. He has a bounce back year, and he's going to have a very, very nice year 2 leap. I just hope the kid doesn't get himself into any trouble because he seems a little off the rails. Funny. It's funny to watch, but I just hope he doesn't get himself into any trouble.
It should be fine.
Yeah. It's always sad to see those players do that to themselves.
And they're mostly in Pittsburgh, I notice.
A lot of them are in Pittsburgh, and they always are just so weird. I don't know what is going on over there. But that is the last of our responses. Anything else before we end the show tonight?
Nope.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. We have new episodes out on Tuesdays and Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and so much more. Also be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Over and out.